stormy night. A pregnant waitress. A stranger bleeding on the side of the road. Monica Rivers hadn't planned on being a hero that night. At 8 months pregnant with swollen ankles and an aching back from another double shift at Joe's Diner, she just wanted to make it home before the storm got worse. But fate had other plans. Rain slammed against her windshield as she squinted through the dark country road. That's when she saw him staggering, drenched and bleeding. A man in a torn designer suit, limping like he'd barely survived something terrible. Every instinct told her to keep driving, but something in her heart whispered, "Stop." She pulled over, not knowing this single act of kindness would unravel secrets tied to the deepest wound of her past and rewrite everything she thought she knew about love loss and herself. And this was just the beginning. Monica Rivers had never planned to be a single mother. At 29, she once thought her life was finally falling into place. A steady job at Joe's Diner, a small rental house on the edge of town, and a marriage she had believed in. But that illusion shattered 6 months ago when Tom, her charming, smooth-talking husband, emptied their joint bank account and vanished with his 22-year-old secretary. He left nothing behind. Not a note, not a call, not even enough to cover the rent. Pregnant and alone. Monica cried every night for weeks, but not once did she stop working. Her mama hadn't raised her to fold under pressure. She got up every morning, tied that apron around her growing belly, and pushed through 14-hour shifts with a forced smile and burning ankles. Betty, the older waitress who'd worked at Joe's for decades, had tried to convince her to take maternity leave. "Honey, you're carrying a watermelon in August," she'd say with a chuckle. But Monica always answered the same way: "I can't afford not to." The customers didn't know her story, and most didn't care. She was just another tired face behind the coffee pot, another woman of color trying to make ends meet. They didn't see her strength. They didn't know she used to dream about being a nurse, about helping people for a living, instead of just refilling their ketchup bottles. But dreams didn't pay electric bills, and Monica had long since learned that in this world, nobody was coming to save her. That's why stopping for that man on the side of the road was so out of character, because kindness had cost her everything once. But something about the way he looked at her through the storm, wounded, desperate, and strangely familiar, cracked the armor she had built around her heart. And when he said his name, Gabriel, Monica had no idea that name would one day rewrite the story of her life. The drive through the storm was silent, except for the steady thump of the windshield wipers and the occasional wince of pain from the stranger beside her. "Just a few more miles," Monica said, glancing at him. "You holding up okay?" "I've had worse," he muttered, clutching his side. His clothes were soaked and muddy, but there was no mistaking the expensive cut of the suit or the watch still clinging to his wrist, even through blood and rain. He didn't belong out here, not on a rural back road in Georgia, not limping and bleeding like a man on the run. When they reached her small rental house, Monica helped him inside, eased him onto the couch, and brought out her dusty first aid kit. She was no nurse, but she cleaned his wounds with steady hands, hands that had worked through fatigue, heartbreak, and the weight of unborn motherhood. He barely spoke, but when he did, his voice was calm, polished, like someone used to being listened to. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, eyes locked on hers. Monica hesitated, then shrugged. "Because somebody once helped my mama when she was pregnant and alone. Sometimes, kindness is all we've got." She gave him a change of clothes, an old shirt and sweatpants Tom had left behind, and made up the couch with fresh sheets. Before heading to bed, she paused, one hand protectively on her belly. "I don't know who you are," she said, "but don't make me regret this." When Monica woke the next morning, the couch was empty. For a moment, panic seized her until she stepped into the kitchen and froze. The ancient fridge had been replaced by a gleaming stainless steel one. The cabinets were full. Groceries, name-brand essentials, fresh fruit, even gourmet coffee. A stack of bills, hundreds, maybe thousands, sat in a crisp envelope on the table. Inside, a note in perfect cursive read, "Thank you for your kindness. I repay debts always." Grr. But the real shock came seconds later when her phone rang. It was Betty. Monica, turn on the TV. Channel 5, right now. She grabbed the remote, hands trembling. There on the screen was the man she had taken in the night before. Gabriel Langston, tech billionaire, philanthropist, reported missing after escaping an attempted kidnapping. The man sleeping on her couch wasn't just wealthy, he was one of the most powerful men in the country. And Monica had just stepped into a story far bigger than she could imagine. For 3 days, Monica kept the curtains drawn. Reporters camped outside the diner. Neighbors whispered. Her phone buzzed nonstop, family, co-workers, even strangers wanting to know what it felt like to save a billionaire. She didn't answer any of them, because deep down Monica wasn't sure what any of it meant. She had no intention of becoming a headline, no desire to chase fame. She just wanted to go back to her quiet life. But that was no longer an option. On the 4th evening, there was a knock at her back door. She peeked through the curtain and froze. Standing there this time in a tailored gray coat and dry shoes was Gabriel Langston. I figured the front door might come with cameras, he said with a small smile. Monica opened the door cautiously. You've got a strange way of saying thank you. I'm not here for the cameras, he said, voice low. I'm here for you. He stepped inside, his eyes scanning the kitchen he had quietly stalked days earlier. You didn't have to help me. Most wouldn't have. But you did. She folded her arms. Because I thought you were just a man in trouble. Not him, Gabriel chuckled. That's the first time anyone said that to me and made me feel human again. From then on, he came by, often late evenings, after her shifts, when the world was quiet and Monica was too tired to pretend she wasn't lonely. Sometimes he brought food. Other nights, they just sat on the porch sipping tea while her baby kicked gently beneath her ribs. I haven't had a real conversation in years, Gabriel said one night, staring into the Georgia sky. Everyone either wants something from me or wants to be seen with me. But you didn't ask for a thing. Monica turned to him, guarded. That doesn't mean I don't need anything. Gabriel's voice softened. Then let me help. And for the first time in a long time, Monica didn't say no. But just as trust began to grow and hope found a foothold, her past came roaring back. Monica's phone buzzed just as she was closing up the diner. She glanced at the screen, expecting a message from Gabriel. But the name made her blood run cold. Tom, her ex-husband. The man who'd vanished 6 months ago without so much as a goodbye. The man who left her pregnant, broke, and humiliated. She stared at the message. Saw you on TV. We should talk. Maybe now we can work things out. Monica's hands trembled. He didn't care about her. He never had. But now that the world thought she was close to a billionaire, he wanted back in. No, she deleted the message, but the next day he showed up in person. It was a busy morning at the diner when Betty's face went pale. Monica turned, and there he was. Same smirk, same designer clothes, same snake-like charm. Hello, beautiful, Tom said, sliding into a stool at the counter. Miss me? She gripped the coffee pot tighter. What are you doing here? Tom's smile widened. Checking on my wife. And my baby. We never did finalize those divorce papers, did we? Get out, Betty snapped, stepping between them. But Tom wasn't fazed. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and laid it on the counter. Custody papers, he said casually. My lawyer says as the biological father I have rights, especially if the mother is unstable. Monica felt like the floor dropped out beneath her. You abandoned us, she whispered. Tom leaned in. But now you've got billionaire friends. That changes everything. Maybe we can be a family again. Just then, the diner went quiet. Gabriel stood in the doorway, eyes locked on Tom. Tom turned, smiling slickly. Ah, the man of the hour. Gabriel didn't smile back. While you were hiding in Florida with your secretary, Monica was surviving. Tom's mask slipped. What did she do to get your attention? Huh. Sleep her way to the top. The diner gasped. But before Monica could speak, Sheila the cook walked out with a pot of steaming coffee. Oops, she said sweetly, my hand slipped. It landed squarely on Tom's $1,000 suit. The crowd laughed. Monica didn't. She looked Tom dead in the eye. Get out, and don't come back. But deep down she knew this wasn't over. Because Tom had one more card to play a secret about her past that could destroy everything. Tom didn't leave quietly. He stormed out of the diner, muttering curses, his suit dripping coffee and dignity. But Monica knew better than to relax. She'd seen that look in his eyes before, the one that said, "I'm not finished with you." And he wasn't. That afternoon, Monica's phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a photo. Her and Gabriel, sitting on her porch, laughing, taken through her living room window. Below it, a message. "Nice little moment. Wonder how much the tabloids would pay for it. Back off or I go public." Her breath caught in her throat. He was watching her. She showed the message to Gabriel later that night, heart pounding. He paced the kitchen, fury simmering just beneath the surface. "I can make a call," he said. "I'll have him shut down in hours. I've got lawyers, investigators." "No," Monica cut in. "This is my fight." Gabriel stopped, surprised. "I let him control me," once she said quietly. "I won't let it happen again. Not with this baby inside me." Her hand rested on her stomach. Gabriel's voice softened. "Then we fight him together." But Tom wasn't just stalking and threatening anymore. He was digging. 2 days later, Monica got another message. "Found something interesting in your old records. Wonder what Gabriel would think if he knew the truth about your past, about his brother." She froze. David. The name hit her like ice water. Gabriel's younger brother. The man she'd once been engaged to. The man who died in a car crash 5 years ago, with her behind the wheel. She had never told Gabriel. How could she? He didn't know she had once loved his brother. Didn't know that for years people had whispered that the accident wasn't just tragic, it was her fault. Monica sat in the quiet of her tiny living room, her thoughts racing. Her life had finally begun to feel steady, safe. And now, with one message, it was on the verge of collapse. The next morning, Monica opened her front door to find a reporter crouched in the bushes. Cameras clicked. Voices shouted her name. Questions flew like bullets. "Is it true you were engaged to David Langston? Did you lie to Gabriel? Are you trying to trap another Langston brother for money?" She slammed the door shut, heart racing. On TV, headlines screamed, "Pregnant waitress, caught in Langston family love triangle. Billionaire's baby, or billionaire's betrayal." Somehow, Tom had twisted the truth again, leaked the records, stirred the gossip, and this time he'd painted Monica as a manipulative woman with a history of seducing powerful men. The worst part, her own mother called, not to ask if she was okay, but to ask if it was true. Monica's throat tightened as she sat in the kitchen, surrounded by silence. She'd worked so hard to build a new life, a safe space for her baby. And now it was unraveling. Gabriel arrived that evening. She barely looked up when he walked in. "They're calling me a gold digger," she whispered. "A liar, a murderer." He moved toward her. "None of that is true." "But you didn't know," she said, finally meeting his eyes. "You didn't know I was engaged to your brother, that I was driving the night he died, that your family blamed me." Gabriel's face was unreadable. He sat across from her, hands folded. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought you'd hate me," Monica said, her voice cracking. "Because I couldn't bear to see the same look your father gave me after the funeral." He was quiet for a long moment. Then finally, "My brother made his own choices that night, and so did you, trying to stop him getting in that car, doing everything you could." His voice trembled slightly. "I don't hate you, Monica. I've never admired anyone more." Tears slipped down her cheeks. But outside their quiet bubble, the world was still burning. And Tom, he wasn't done yet, because the next move he made would force Monica into the fight of her life. The wind howled through the trees like a warning. Monica gripped the edge of the kitchen table, another contraction ripping through her like lightning. Her due date was still 3 weeks away, but her body had other plans. Mrs. Parker, the kind neighbor who'd taken Monica in after she fled town, sprang into action, boiling water, lighting lanterns. The mountain roads were flooded, the phone lines dead. Help wasn't coming. "You're doing great, sweetheart," Mrs. Parker said, gently wiping Monica's brow. "Just breathe. We've got this." But Monica could feel it. Something wasn't right. Her belly was tight, too tight. A fever burned beneath her skin. And Gabriel wasn't here. He'd flown back to the city the night before to settle things with his board of directors. She hadn't told him she was in labor. She wasn't sure she'd even get the chance. Then the front door burst open. Gabriel stood there, soaked to the bone, eyes wild with fear. Monica. She looked up, relief washing over her in a single tear. You came. Of course I came, he whispered, rushing to her side. You didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you? You're not mad, she asked between shallow breaths. About David. Gabriel knelt beside her, taking her hand. I know everything. I spoke to the lawyer. You tried to stop him. You tried to save him. I couldn't, she whispered. But you saved me, he said. That night in the rain, you didn't just pull over for a stranger. You saved a man who'd stopped believing in people. Another contraction hit. Monica screamed, clutching Gabriel's hand so tightly his knuckles turned white. We have to push now, Mrs. Parker said, urgency in her voice. The baby's heartbeat is dropping. Monica gasped for air. If anything happens to me, promise me you'll tell our child everything. That I tried. Gabriel cupped her face. You'll tell them yourself, because you're going to make it. And then one final push. A cry split the storm like sunlight through clouds. A baby's cry. Then Monica's. Then Gabriel's soft, broken, overwhelmed. It was over. Or rather, it was just beginning. Sometimes Monica had wondered if pain was all she'd ever know. She had been left lied to, humiliated. She had worked through swollen feet and sleepless nights carrying not just a baby, but the weight of being invisible. A woman others saw as disposable, replaceable, forgettable. But standing there now with her daughter in her arms and Gabriel at her side, she finally understood. She had never been weak. She had never been broken. She had been surviving. And survival in the face of betrayal was a kind of grace. To every woman who's ever been left behind, Monica whispered into the quiet cabin, your story isn't over. Don't let anyone write your ending for you, because sometimes love doesn't show up in roses or rings. Sometimes it comes in the form of headlights on a stormy road and the courage to stop. That evening, as Monica rocked her newborn beside the fire, Gabriel knelt beside her, brushing a curl from her cheek. You know, he said softly, there are millions of women out there like you. Monica looked up, tired but glowing. You mean strong and stubborn? I mean powerful, he smiled. Unseen, underestimated, but never broken. If just one of them sees this, maybe they'll realize they're not alone. She looked down at her daughter, then back at him. Then let's make sure they hear it. Monica turned toward the camera her friend Betty was holding, recording a thank you video for the foundation Gabriel had helped her start. And to every black woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough, Monica said gently, never forget your story still matters. Your strength is real. And your happy ending, it's still out there. 1 year later, the mountains were quiet again, but this time not because of a storm. Soft music floated through the trees. White lanterns swayed gently in the breeze. And beneath a simple wooden arch, Monica Rivers stood in a flowing ivory dress, her daughter Hope on her hip, wildflowers in her curls. Across from her stood Gabriel Langston, eyes shining as if he couldn't believe she was real. The guest list was small, just Betty, Mrs. Parker, Dr. Chen, and a few others who had stood by them through the fire. No reporters, no press, just love. The minister smiled as he looked at the two of them. Some stories don't begin with perfection, he said. Some begin with storm scars and second chances. But today, we celebrate what grew from the ashes. Gabriel took Monica's hand, his voice steady. You saved me that night, Monica. Not just my life, but my heart. And you reminded me, Monica replied, eyes wet, that love doesn't have to be perfect, just real. When they kissed, Hope squealed and clapped, and the small crowd erupted in joyful applause. That evening, as stars lit the sky and fireflies danced above the grass, Monica looked around at the home they had built to the foundation, helping single mothers, the cabin that had once held her tears, now filled with laughter. And for the first time she allowed herself to feel it. Peace, belonging, joy. She turned to the camera, smiling gently. If this story touched your heart, she said, don't forget, there are so many more waiting to be told. Don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Black Voices for more emotional and powerful Black stories that matter. Because love after betrayal, healing after heartbreak, and strength after silence, they're not just fiction. They're real, and they deserve to be seen.